So today I want to talk about something that hasn't been on the news a lot as far as television goes, but as far as medical journals go, it's been in the news quite a bit. So today I'm going to talk about oxytocin. And within each of our body, we have thousands of hormones that are secreted every day. In the last 10 years, there was one hormone that was almost dismissed entirely as not playing a vital role, and that hormone is called oxytocin. People basically thought it was unimportant. But then within the last 10 years, research has found that thought process was probably wrong. After some research, oxytocin has now been called the cuddle hormone or the love hormone. They found that it produces warm feelings, feelings of connection to your baby after your baby is born, and it contributes to the feelings that we feel when we fall in love. So now it's been called the love hormone. Research has begun to figure out how the hormone truly influences us. So there's been 3 ways I'm going to talk about today where we've found a little bit of evidence about this hormone and that it's important. And one of these is in mice. So research started very recently with testing using mice. And so they set up a test, and for the test, they had some mice that spent 24 hours with other mice. So they interacted, and then 24 hours after that, they put those same mice in separate cages, and they waited for another 24 hours. And then on the 3rd day, the mice were put in a little house in between the 2 cages. So it would basically be like 3 units, and one's connected in the middle. And the mice were in the middle part, and then there were 2 doors, and they could choose to go out with other mice, or they could choose to go in the room where they would be alone. And so if they weren't given the hormone oxytocin, they would tend to stay alone, or they would mingle around each other, but they wouldn't interact a lot. And then once they were given the hormones, all the mice would engage with the other mice. So they did find with the research regarding the mice that the oxytocin did play a role in those type of relationships. The next example I have is with a 9-year-old named Isabel. Isabel has a disease called Williams syndrome, which is rare and genetic and causes quite a few different developmental delays. One of the side effects of Williams syndrome is that the brain doesn't release the oxytocin chemical as it should. In Isabel's case, she has too much of the hormone being secreted around the clock, which basically makes it impossible for her to distrust anyone. So this child goes up to all strangers all day long and tells everyone around her that she loves them. And the family has tried to find ways to combat this and train her to try and not do this because it could be harmful to her. But there is literally no way for the family to turn this off. She continues to interact with strangers on a regular basis and has literally no social fear. For us, in our bodies that work normally, oxytocin is generated in our bodies when there's an action that happens where we would need it. So if someone smiles at you on the street, you feel their friendliness come off to you, so your body secretes that same hormone. And the very last thing I wanted to talk about was another research study with nasal spray. And a recent study showed that if they put the oxytocin hormone into a nasal spray and had college students spray it into their nose, there was an 80% increase in college students' willingness to distribute money to strangers. Either those people on the street with the clipboards that are trying to always ask you for money, or the homeless. And then another research company decided to look into this as well, and they tested 130 subjects. Half of the people got the oxytocin, and the other half got a placebo. And those who did take it reported higher levels of trust. Lastly, there was one small preliminary study focusing on individuals with autism. This study is growing because parents are trying to sign up to get their children to try it. And it did show improved responsiveness to others during social games, like ball tossing, if they did use the nasal spray. So the kids would have more interaction, be more willing to interact if they use the spray. So in conclusion, if this hormone really impacts us in the way research is finding, we may likely be able to use the research to treat socialization issues associated with conditions like autism or maybe even schizophrenia. And it is controversial, but some suggest that if the hormone truly influences trust, a dose of it might be good for all of us when it comes to our feelings about today's government.
Nice.